So we're going to look at different types of payments using the internet. Now there are different types of payments that we're going to use for online payments. The first one we're going to look at is credit and debit cards. Now there is a difference between the two cards here. Now a credit card is basically a card that you borrow money from the bank, and then what you tend to do is you tend to pay the money back to the bank later on, with often paying like an interest, paying it at the end of the month. Debit card is one where it takes the money directly out of your account that you currently hold. So if you have £0, 0 pence, you won't be able to use the card, whereas a credit card, you can borrow money and then pay it back a month later on, but you have to pay that interest. Now, when you pay online with either of these cards tend to have bits of information you need to use. So, for example, I'll give you details of my card here. So I bank with the HSBC, and it tends to have my name on the card. It has an expiry date on the card, so for example the month and the year, and then it tends to have a start date on the card, the month again and the year. What it also has, it tends to have my sort code, my account number, and it has a long 16-digit number. If I turn the card over, on the other side of the card, what it has also on there is it has my signature, and it tends to have like a number here, and it tends to be 6 numbers. So it tends to be 3 numbers and then 3 more numbers in each bit. And this is called a CSV, and this is your last 3 digits. It tends to request for you to put in as a security password type number. And then also, actually thinking earlier, credit and debit cards also have the chip and pin as well that we have in there. So when I want to use this card, what I will be normally asked is to enter in my 16-digit number. It will ask me for my user or my card name, and it'll ask for your expiry date on a debit card or credit card. If it's a debit card, it tends to ask for the start date and expiry date. When I'm making the purchase, it will also ask for this CSV number. Now the CSV number is those last 3 numbers, and it tends to stand for credit card verification code. And it just comes on the bottom of the card. Now when I provide all these details, the process will then go through. Now some banks have a next step security, and what it will do is, like for example MasterCard, when you use their cards, what tends to happen is it will then go through to a second step which is linked to the bank, and it will then ask you to type in a password that you've set up with the bank. Okay. When you're making these purchases online, going back to earlier about password encryption of data and things, when you're buying things you need to look for this padlock on that URL. Then you need to look for the words HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocols. And what that will happen then is AS stands for secure. And then what happens is these are the set of rules, and again, if you remember me talking about you having the post box, not post box, the parcel, and then you send that bank card details across to the person that's selling the product, and then they receive the box and put a second padlock on it, and then it goes back to the person that's buying it. They take off their padlock and it's left on with the second padlock, and they send it back to the person that's selling the item, and then with that box they can then unlock their own padlock there, and then they can get your bank account details there and then take the money. Okay, so that's about payment systems for using credit and debit cards. The other banking systems that we have allow us is bank transfers, called bank account transfers or BACS. Now, using bank account transfers on here, what we tend to do with this one is tend to basically take information from a business, for example, and they will provide you with a sort code and an account number. So the business provides those details. Then what happens is the buyer of the product, they then type into their online bank, so they log into their online account on the bank, and then they type, there's an option on the banks to say transfer money. Now when they transfer that money, they're transferring it from their account to the business's account, but they transfer using the details that are provided by the bank. So this is a this is a type of payment that is used by bank transfers. The other one is third-party payments. So third-party payments is basically where, for example, you're using PayPal. So third-party payments. This basically means that there's a third party that are involved in the process of the payments. So it's not made directly to the buyer, from the seller to the buyer. It's held and then someone else collects it. So for example, the buyer has his bank account details, and what they do is they give it to the third party company, and tends to be things like PayPal. And then what happens is the seller has the bank details going to them. So this allows, for example, the goods to be then sent backwards, sent from the seller to the buyer when the money is received. And it's transfer of goods coming across. Okay. What the advantages of using this is that basically none of the actual bank account information is actually shared. So the buyer's bank account details, their sort code and their long digit number and their account number and things, isn't actually shared with the seller. It goes to this third party who keeps them secure, and then the seller gets information from the third party, or the third party then does the purchase on their behalf, then sends money to the seller, and the seller then sends the good. Okay. So the advantages of using a third party is that if the seller isn't secure, for example, can't offer a secure site, which can be expensive to have that encryption for the padlock and things and certifications and things, it can cost to have your website all done. PayPal will do all that part for you, and then also if you're a buyer, it reduces that element of fraud also, so because you have somebody to come back onto if information is taken from your account.